Okay, I'm going to have one more attempt to try and make a video. Hopefully it will save. I'll try and keep it short. I made so many attempts yesterday and none of them worked, so I feel annoyed, very annoyed at having to say things and I only to lose the video. But about the march that I did yesterday, one thing that came kind of clear in my head was that even though the crowd was amazing and there was lots of support for this sort of anti-Islamic movement and all the migrants and the sort of the invasion that's coming, I felt like the audience was very was a perfect audience to help get rid of Islam because they were very anti-Islam and anti-Muslim. But yeah, out of the crowd, how many people in the crowd would have supported me as being Christ? That was a completely different question. I think when it comes to me rising up as being Christ and telling people this, I think it's going to have to come through telling people and seeing who does the research and then seeing who wants to believe and I feel like it's probably going to be small at first and then it will get bigger the more people do their research. But I know that if there is going to be a war against Islam, it's probably better to do it first because the number of people that are against Islam, it is it's any non-Muslim basically. If Islam is preaching that Muslims if you're a non-Muslim you need to die, then I guess anyone that's a non-Muslim probably won't like this. And I think the more they hear about it, the more they'll find out about it. A couple of 10 years ago, Muslim people just stayed in Muslim countries and therefore they didn't really integrate into our culture or our country, so we weren't really aware of it. You don't want to trouble yourself over a problem that's a long way away. I think that's what a lot of people did. They tried not to get affected. It doesn't affect their life. Like I didn't know that much about it, but I know Muhammad didn't sound like a good example for how someone should be. So I kind of just didn't do too much research. And I think I knew there was something wrong with their religion, definitely. Like nothing in it I seem to agree with, and it does seem to remind me of my sister, how just nothing there's a few things that me and my sister have in common, but a lot of it is not, we're not in common. And yeah, Islam seems to have this spirit that seems to be generally about rejecting anything that I believe in, or believing in the opposite of what I believe in. But yeah, the crowd there, how supportive would they be if they knew that I was Christ? I don't know, because there was kind of a lot of rowdy people, a lot of people that would swear. I did hear a couple of people shout, kill the Jews too. I heard one or two people say that, and there was a few people shouting this is a waste of time because they just wanted to hear Tommy talk and he wasn't talking in the first hour. So, there was all sorts of people in the crowd, and I'm some of them were, there was a lot of British people, all British mostly, but there was some good and bad, and yeah, I think for me to get rid of Islam, which is, if I was to reduce the world's population, I think it's best to start off with getting rid of the people that are most mad, people that are most dangerous, people that are awful. And these types of people live in all sorts of religions, but they are more so in the Islamic religion. Why? Because of all the stories about Muhammad, they're terrible, they're not good. It would attract a lot of bad people who want to have sex with kids, people who want to marry their cousin or something. This isn't good practice. But if you don't know that, and I feel like you don't know the truth of things, or if Islam is basically a big long list of all the things that that God doesn't agree with or God doesn't support, the people that would be most drawn to it would be people that don't sense the truth. Hence their spirit is kind of inverted, and these, I guess, are the people that I'd most want to leave out of everyone. But I would only want to turn against it if I feel like I'm not going to be killed by it. If I'm doing massage and they're all Asian people and half of them are Islamic, I'm not going to be able to speak up against it, and that's how it's been for a long time. But for me to want to speak up against it, I'd have to feel like there's enough people that would support me and support this claim. And I feel like in the same way, maybe the government is afraid to speak out because they too don't want to be a target of assassination. Killing people that don't agree with your views or your beliefs. This is kind of what Muhammad taught about, and therefore there might be some more radicalized people in the Muslim religion that take on his example and think, this person is against Islam, I'm Islamic, I'm going to kill them, and I don't think the government, because there's only a small number of people actually running the government in comparison to the whole population, and yeah, if the government is seen to be turning against Islam, they might make themselves a target. So maybe it's making me wonder if this whole thing is just a setup designed to try and get Islamic people, get English people to think that the government is against Tommy or this individual who was trying to expose the Islamic community. And this has kind of brought up these questions, is there something wrong with the Islamic community? I don't know what stories are true. I don't know how many girls have actually been affected by the stories about what's going on. Is it a lot and it's been exaggerated, or is it a little and it's been exaggerated? I don't know the true numbers, but I feel like I don't trust the government enough to actually get the numbers. But I know that there's a possibility that maybe the government want the public to start rising up against Islam. To be honest, I want the public to start rising up against Islam because I want to say bad things about it, and I don't want to feel like I'm the only one who's saying bad things about it. I'd like to feel supported. I'd like to feel backed up. And, this Tommy Robinson march and movement really is bringing up a crowd of people against Islam, which is what it needs to be, because Islam, there's a lot of extremists in this thing, but they can't attack hundreds of thousands of people. If hundreds of thousands of people hate Islam, and if 20% of Muslims are radicals, if 20%, if there's 3 million people in England and 20% of them have strong Sharia law beliefs and want to bring Sharia law to the country, if only 20% of them does, well, 20% of 3 million is going to be far less than the number of people in England that actually want to get rid of Islam, and therefore they can't attack these people. Plus they'll be afraid of being put in prison, and they know that if they do start attacking more and more people, there's only going to be more and more reason to get rid of the Islamic people. So I think because of this, it can't be the government fighting the Islamic takeover that's coming over. It has to be the people that rise up. So there's a lot of people that are talking about how they hate the elites and hate how they've all done this, but maybe it's not the elites' fault. Technically it might be the Home Office fault if they're the ones that are legalizing lots of people, and they shouldn't be, because they haven't done the checks. They haven't worked out if these people are going to come work, pay taxes, or if they're just going to come make lots of money off in any way they can, try and avoid tax, maybe through builder work or whatever, and then just send the money back home. You can know what money is being sent elsewhere. If someone's coming into this country and they've got a bank account that's just constantly sending money to a different country to help raise funds for different events or something in different countries, well, you've got a problem there. So I feel like the banks or whoever is doing this, they must know a lot of things that. And a lot of people are attacking the elites, but it might not necessarily be the elites' fault. But then again, on the other hand, if the elites do know that there's going to be some sort of Islamic war, bringing lots of Islamic people in, making that who are fairly rich, getting them to buy houses, knowing that they could be, something could happen and they could get their money back. I don't know. I don't want to say that, but I know that I don't like Islam, and I know that I would like to get rid of it in any way possible, because it's just a bunch of teachings that are really against me. And yeah, so I like the rise of this anti-Islamic movement.